All right, I am so excited about a project, and I've got this here as just a little bit of a visual, a little bit of a tease, if you will. I do not have a Vitrigraph kiln, and I'm not going to, because I just don't have the room for it. But I love Vit, I love cane, I love the Murrini that I purchased from some of my favorites, and I'm also in love with the idea that I live in a large metropolitan area that has a really great group of fused glass artists, and it's a real nice glass community that we have here. And included in that community are a number of friends that live not too far away from me who all have these kinds of kilns, and who have on a number of occasions invited me over to pull Vit or to pull cane. And I'm finally taking somebody up on this. Good friends Cory and MERRI. So we're going to do a little bit of a field trip, and I've got an idea here for some cane that I'd like to create, and then ultimately a project out of it. It starts with a field trip to Cory and MERRI's. I'm going to head over there and do a little bit of game planning. I want to understand, what kind of Vit pot they have, what the construction of the glass needs to look like inside for the idea that I have, do a little bit of planning, come back to my studio and start to prep for that. We'll go back to Cory and MERRI's and pull the cane itself and have a good time doing that. We'll chop the cane, we'll create a project, and so if you're interested, here we go. All right, so I'm at Cory and MERRI's. Hi, Cory.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, MERRI.
Hey, Jamaison.
She's
hey,
mad that Okay, yeah. Okay, so these are the two pots that they have. So one obviously is round and one is square, and they have there's a bottom that you can use for either one. Obviously, you could put this the round one on top of there, and then you line the bottom plate with some fiber blanket. Obviously, this is the hole where your glass is going to come out. And so basically, it's a matter of, do you want to use a square pot or a round pot? Your shape is going to be the same because you're using a hole in the middle here. For square, if you want to cut sheet glass, you could do that. You could also fuse some scrap blanks together, and that's the approach I think we're going to take for the piece that I want to do. I think we might use the round pot. MERRI and Cory have some of these stainless steel rings, so I'm going to borrow these and make my scraps. One other way to I'm going to do scrap melts in here to make pucks, and we'll show you what that construction ultimately looks like. Here we go, Cory's helping out with a little visual aids here. So we're going to make pucks and then stack these pucks of glass to create the cane design that I have in mind. There's another one. And so this is a great way to use up scrap. I've got a fair amount of scrap, so I'm going to use some of these and make the pucks that then we will assemble into the pot, and I'll show you how I go about making the pucks. Now, this is one idea, using these stainless steel. You've seen me a long time ago use this ceramic guard tile. It's a ceiling tile actually, but it fires well in the kiln. You can cut circles, and so as I had shown you earlier, I had a hole, what do you call it? A drill saw, hole saw, drill blade things. This is the beauty of live video here. And so I drilled out my holes. These are only 4-inch, and this pot is much bigger. Thank you. Look at this, my assistant here, carbon steel hole saw set. So this actually has a 5-inch in here, but this pot is bigger. This takes almost 6 inches, I believe. And so this is one way you could do it if you wanted to create holes, or pucks rather. I could go as big as 5, but since they've got these and I can use them, I'm just going to go ahead and do that and keep it easy. But I just wanted to show that there's a different way that you could go about creating your own mold. If you don't have stainless steel round molds, you could create your own in other ways, and this happens to be this ceiling tile from Ceramic Guard. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my studio after doing a game plan here. I'm going to show you what my inspiration is for the cane that I want to pull, the color selection that we're going to do, and then we will come back to MERRI and Cory's after I have my pucks made, and we're going to assemble it into the kiln and fire it. All right, so I have my rings. MERRI already had some fiber paper in here, this 1/8-inch fiber paper. You put a piece of thin fire then behind the joint in case that spreads open a little bit, then your glass doesn't run and touch the steel. So I need to do that and lay these out on the kiln shelf with, I use kiln paper, so I'll put some kiln paper under, and then I'm gonna fill these with scraps. So here is the inspiration for the cane that I want to create. I think it would be kind of cool to use peacock colors. So I've got some scrap And I'm going to play around with this a little bit. My idea includes maybe using aventurine green on the outer edge, then something like a spring green, maybe a transparent spring green for one of the inner circles. Then amber, I think, could look really cool. And you got to separate those by, well, I'm not sure if they're reactive, but I would put a thin layer of clear in the stack between each one to try to keep those from causing a reaction. So I've got to fire some clear pucks too, and then maybe a turquoisey kind of blue. I'm gonna look at my scrap and just see what I have. I actually might have a fair amount of peacock color, and then a dark, maybe even aventurine blue for the center. And I'll separate these with some clear, as I mentioned. And I think I'm going to play with the idea of putting some clear dichro in one of the clear pucks and see if that sparkle comes through when we pull that cane. This may end up being a whole big disaster that doesn't work, but this is my idea. And so I'm going to get these set up in the kiln shelf, start cleaning and cutting up all my scrap and filling those, and then I'll do a full fuse on these to make the pucks. And then what we're going to do, you'll see later, we'll stack the pucks in their container so that we can pull the cane. All right, so I really have no idea if this is going to work, but let me just show you what I've got. So I've got a bunch of aventurine blue scrap, and there are a few pieces that had rainbow irid on there, and I'm pretty sure the irid is just going to kind of get lost in the pull, and that's okay. It's scrap and I wanted to use it up. So that's going to be the center. I have some aventurine green. I think this is the dark aventurine, not the light, but it wasn't marked and I don't even know because it was in my scrap, so it doesn't matter too much to me. But that's going to be on the outer ring. So this will be the innermost portion, this will be the outermost portion. You'll see all of this when we go stack it later. I had a bunch of peacock scrap, so I thought about using turquoise, but I had a bunch of this peacock, so I just used it. Most of this is all irid. Again, I think that irid's going to get lost in the pull, but if it comes through a little bit and has a little sparkle to it, that'll be kind of cool, so I don't mind about that. I also have some spring green here, and that'll be a relatively thin layer because I didn't put a lot of glass in there. And then I've got the amber, and what you can see is I've added a bunch of dichro. So there's a whole layer of dichro in the middle, just different dichro scraps. I have an abundance, luckily, of clear dichro scrap. So I want that dichro to come through as a sparkle, and I think it's gonna, kind of break up. Dichro floats a lot, or it's gonna kind of break up and become, hopefully, dust, basically, within this pull. And I want that amber layer to kind of sparkle if I can. So I put amber down, then dichro in the middle, and then a bunch more amber on top. And the same here, I need a clear layer. I'm gonna have a couple of other layers of clear, but with this one, this is all clear scrap with some clear dichro scrap in the middle. And so hopefully between that one and this one, I'm gonna end up with some real sparkle in the final pulled cane. We will see. I'm gonna fire this and get these all melted down into pucks, and then we'll go from there. Okay, my pucks are fired. So I have here the aventurine green, which is going to look really dark to you, but there it is. This is a really thin one. I did not put a lot of glass in there. If this just becomes a very thin outer coating, I'm okay with that. Maybe if it had been a little bit thicker, it would be all right. But now the point again of doing these pucks was we're going to stack them in a canister, as you saw earlier in the video. Could you just throw scrap glass in there and stack it that way? Probably. I haven't tried that before, but my intention was to do these pucks, which is what Mary and Cory have done before too, and probably just for a little bit better control over the melt, because now they've already pre-melted and you don't have colors bleeding into each other. I think that's the theory. But anyway, aventurine green, kind of thinner, but I think it's going to be really, really cool. So there's that one. Let's see here, same darkness here for you. You're not going to see light through this. This is the aventurine blue. You can see how it sparkles. There's a little bit of irid that popped to the surface there. I think there's a little bit on the bottom. These came out and they were a little spiky around the edges, so I took them over to my grinder and just knocked all those spikes off so that I didn't hurt myself. No hurty bits here. And so this is going to be the centerpiece, or the kind of the core of that design. I have spring green, so you saw it in the kiln. I decided to throw a little bit more in. I just wanted just a little bit more because I really want that spring green to really pop and become pretty big, and so significant part of the cane when it comes out. So I did a thicker slab of that, and I think that looks pretty nice. Then let's see what else. This is the peacock, and as you can see, as I move it around here, you can see the irid in there. You know, if the irid does not come through in the final firing, that's okay. If it stays, I think that'll be really cool. But if it doesn't, that's okay too. So that peacock color, I think, looks really nice next to that spring green. And then I'm pretty excited about these. So here's the layer of clear that had all the dichro. And as a matter of fact, if I turn off the light, there we go. You can really see all that dichro kind of sparkling in there. So I trapped it in the middle for the most part. There's one piece that floated to the top here. There was a couple pieces on the bottom, but for the most part, it is trapped in the middle of that clear glass. And I'm just hoping that as this pulls, as this melts and pulls, it's all going to break up and just become almost like dust within the clear. And then same concept for my amber. So I put a layer of dichro scraps within the amber. You can see, sorry, you can see those in there. You can see a little bit popped on the bottom here, but for the most part, that's all trapped in there. Now it doesn't quite have the exact same shine or the color that comes through. The amber kind of mutes the color, but you definitely get that sparkle. And so I'm hoping that that comes through in the pull, and you can really see that in there. So I'm pretty excited about how these colors are coming together, at least the ones that are transparent that you can see. I think this will make a really creative and colorful piece. So the next step really is to put it in the canister and start to fire it. So we'll head over to Cory and Merri's for the next segment and warm this stuff up and start to pull. All right, this is the magic here. This is the Vitrigraph kiln. Lots of folks have one. They've got it on a shelf with a hole in the bottom. You can pull the cane down. Let me show you what the setup is for the pots. All right, here we are in the shop. This is the base piece with a little bit of fiber paper. Here is the, I don't know, canister that you've...
Vit pot.
Vit pot, thank you. I'm losing my words. Thank you, Cory. We'll put that on there, make sure it's nice and centered, I guess. Trying to do two things at once here. There we go. I just don't want a gap. Is that a gap? Is that gonna be a problem?
Nope, you'll be fine.
All right. So we're gonna layer this in. So first layer, aventurine green. Then I got 2 layers of 3mm clear just to create a little separation, probably barely noticeable. There's some spring green, big chunk of the spring green. Here is my clear that I filled up with the dichro. Here is the amber that also has the dichro in it. 2 more layers of clear to separate. Then I've got that peacock that had the irid in it. I don't think I'm gonna see any of the irid come through. I really just wanted that peacock color. And then finally, the last is the aventurine blue, which will be basically that center. So we're gonna load this up into the kiln and we are gonna pull it. All right, so we're cooking at 1510. We've got glass coming out the bottom. Cory's gonna show me how to do all of this, but we're already flowing, we're already going. And we got AC running because it's Texas, so thank you for that, Cory.
You're welcome.
And he's now starting another kiln so that we can anneal the cane when we're pulling it out. We're gonna throw it in the kiln to anneal it, just so that we have a better opportunity to cut later and get nice clean slices. So Cory is pulling the cane, and he's got gloves that he grabs it, snips it, and then we're running it over to a kiln to anneal it. We will grab that piece again and start pulling. I said I kind of actually don't mind having some thicker cane, so we'll have varying thicknesses here, but we're kind of keeping that a little bit thicker because I think that for the project that I have in mind, if this all works out, if this is what I do with it, I think the thicker would be kind of cool. It's just about chopping it, but I've got an idea for that as well. All right, so we are, the setup here is we're just grabbing it, pulling it. Look at me, I'm pulling cane. And try to get, we know how big the kiln is, so we got a gauge about how far we can pull before it's time to snip it. I'm not good at this yet, but we grab it. These gloves help protect a little bit, but not too much. So grabbing it, cutting it, bringing it over to the kiln, throwing it in. All right.
Fabulous.
That's it.
And repeat. And that's a Paragon Fiber Fuse 14 that we're throwing that in. So the maximum size for our cane is, 12, 14 inches.
So Cory, how long? It was about 4 hours or so. Tell me about the program you ran on your Vit here to get it ready.
So this is about as fast as you can go up till 1250. It sat for 1250 for about an hour to let everybody kind of swim in the pool. And then rockets on up to about 1505. I think it's at 1510 now. And then I got it on a hold for 6 hours, which is not going to take us nearly that long to cut all this. But, you know, generally this full Vit pot will be hour and a half tops.
Nice.
And we are just pulling away.
All right. All right, I'm back home in my studio, and here is the finished cane. So it looks a little dark. That's because the aventurine is on the outside, and now there was the stuff that was left in the pot, and so we banged all that out, and you know, there's some fiber residue on there from the paper and such. I'm going to try to clean this up because you don't want to waste any glass. I think there's some beautiful colors. You've got some of that shiny dichro that's in here. Oh, can you see that? And so I just don't want to lose any of that. So we banged out the pot and tried to get as much of that out as possible. I'm going to figure out how to clean that up the best I can so that we can use that. I'll use it in casting molds or who knows what else. But on the cane here, it's cool. I don't know that you're going to be able to see it on camera like I can see it here, but there's a lot of bling that you can see through there. I think that's that dichro coming through. Now, Cory and I chopped up a few of these pieces as we were making them. I think some of this is going to be better than others. Some's going to give me the effect that I want, that peacock effect, better than other pieces. There's a lot to chop here, and it's going to take a while, but I have an idea. I have another friend who lives nearby who's going to help me with this with a really unique tool that she has developed. So in order to see us chop this and see what it looks like, make sure you subscribe and like and then set notifications, because this is going to end up being a 3-part series. So tune in next time to see what does this chopped cane, first, how are we even going to get this done? And 2, what does this look like? What are some of the cross sections? And then in the 3rd installment, you'll see what I'm actually going to make with it. So stay tuned. I'm super excited about this so far, and can't wait to see what it starts to look like when we chop it up. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.